All right, what's up, boys?
What's up?
So Tyler, I got a funny story to kick things off.
All right.
So I'd never heard of you until that Lance Armstrong Strava segment challenge that happened in COVID.
Well, yeah, that's right. You did do that,
dude. And that's I literally never heard of you before that, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you went and smashed the comm for the challenge. Did you end up winning that thing?
No, I can't. I ended up coming second, I think, in U23.
Okay. Yeah, because it was there was a lot of prize money on the line for that.
Yeah, I think the win for the elite category was 10,000.
That's crazy.
And the win for U23 was 5.
That segment too is in the middle of nowhere in Pisgah. It's really hard to get to. It's really weird that they chose that segment. Probably they just chose it because there's absolutely no traffic, and they wouldn't,
Yeah,
and no one would sue them because they ran into a car while they were chasing a Strava segment.
Right.
It was also pretty savage.
Funny enough, though, I hadn't heard of you, and then when 2021 race season came around, you were firing, you were a force all of last year and this year. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny that you that was the first place you heard of me, because I'm not sure anybody else other than people back home that watch that YouTube channel. Otherwise, nobody else has ever mentioned that.
Oh, really? Did Lance have you on his podcast?
No.
Dude, Lance had Nina on his podcast.
He did?
Nina won the Nina's my girlfriend, for listeners who don't know. Nina won the U23 women's segment, and she was on Lance's podcast to talk about it.
Oh, dude, I didn't know she was on the show. That's sick.
I think so. I don't listen to his show regularly, so
yeah. I just listened to the tour, but So we've got Tyler on today because we are talking about, mostly Iceman. Tyler, Orschel, you were fourth there. I was not fourth. I think I was 26th. But so was this your first time going up to Iceman?
Yeah, it was first Iceman. It's always fallen during the school semester. So I never really had a chance to go in the past, and it's always been a race I wanted to do. So I kind of just went out on a whim this year. Didn't really train for it. Actually kind of came off season with a couple weeks in the legs and just said, why not? Give it a go.
Sick. Yeah. It's always been during cross season. It's I've just never even really been on my radar. I've always known about it because I race mountain bikes too. And all the mountain bikers end their season there. But to me, it's always seemed like one of those races. If you're a mountain biker, you end your season there. But if you're a cyclocross racer, you still got 6 weeks of racing left. So you can't just go to the end of the season party and keep going. I mean, I guess some people do, but in my mind, it just never seemed to fit.
It's always been too late in the season for me. I'm so ready for an off season by November.
Dude, it was 2 weeks after Big Sugar. You could have literally done nothing. You could have done nothing. Tyler didn't do anything, and then you went and raced, and you still had fitness. You could have done that.
Yeah, no, it probably wouldn't have gone as well for me as it did for Tyler if I had done that.
Dude, we were even talking about it at Schwamgen because you had the bike set up for it.
Yeah, and then I did Schwamgen and I realized why I quit XC racing. Dude, the amount of Michigan people who have told me that I need to come up for Iceman. I mean, I do need to do it one of these years for sure and just experience it. Even if I'm not taking it super seriously at that time of year. Although knowing me, I'll probably come up with this crazy bike setup for it and take it super seriously. But I need to do it one of these years. People in Michigan, I feel like that's their world championships. They take that race so seriously. It's crazy.
Dude, it's the biggest. I mean, it's unbelievable how many people are out there. It is. I mean, it does. The last mile at least feels like a world championships.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They have to start. They have to start the waves at 9 a.m, and then they go every 3 minutes for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The photos coming out of that event are epic, man. I mean, like the conditions and the people screaming, like the photo of Alexi, and he looks like he's like deep in the pain cave while people are running up against him and yelling at him. It's like a photo straight from like Alpe d'Huez at the tour or something.
Yeah. I had like seen someone posted something on Facebook, or like maybe the photographer posted some of the photos, and there were like a lot of people who were like upset about the fact that there were dudes like on course running alongside us as we were like climbing that last climb to the finish. And they were saying like, oh, it's not good sportsmanship to like be running on course and like potentially getting in the way of the riders and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, honestly, like it's such a cool experience for us. Like we don't get to experience that kind of crowd and that like rowdiness like all that often here. So like, dude, I welcomed it for sure. I thought it was awesome.
You know, the only place where I've experienced that is when I did La Ruta, the stage race in Costa Rica.
Okay.
That race, you would get to the top of some of these climbs that were closer to the towns, and the climb was just lined with people as if it was like the tour or something.
Spectators?
Yeah, spectators.
Oh, wow. Okay. Sick. Yeah. No, but for sure, Dylan, I mean, you'll have to come up there for it. I mean, even if you just like ended your season and just went to like go do it, and like who cares what place you at? Like just to go race, like it'd be fun.
For sure.
I think you did do pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I think you would. I think you would
really
do
short.
You think
For me,
It is, but it's like it's pretty much an hour threshold effort, and that is what separates the group. Basically, is that first hour.
How punchy is it? Because Schwamigan was so punchy.
It's not nearly as rolling as Schwamigan.
No, it's so
and
flat.
And the terrain is way more mountain bikey. Like, you know, if it felt way more like a mountain bike race than like a, I don't know, Schwamigan's kind of, you know, wide open dirt road kind of race, you know, fire road kind of race. So it feels way more mountain bikey, but it's not punchy. Like everything's super flowy.
Yeah, it really only gets punchy the last 10K when those rollers start. Yeah, so I mean, that's where like the winning moves go, but in terms of being in the final group, it's the first hour.
So the setup that I rode for Schwamigan, would that be a good or a bad setup for
It would have been killer.
Drop bars on a mountain bike?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be pretty solid.
Yeah, I think it would have been awesome.
What's the winning average speed for Iceman usually?
19,
20?
Yeah. That's like same for Schwamigan.
So Kerry Werner, he rode a full rigid like drop bar bike, basically just like a cyclocross bike, but I think he said he had 50 mil tires. And I think like a full rigid with that small of tires, I think that's a little risky. Like, sure, as long as you can keep it upright, then, you know, it can have its advantages at times. But I don't know. I don't think like, to me, that doesn't seem the right bike, but I think the drop bars could be fast. And I think either the, you know, full 100 mil fork or the whatever 30 or 40 mil gravel fork, like I think either of those would have been pretty primo.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, interesting.
And we can talk about this a little bit more, or I can even bring it up now. It doesn't matter. But someone did ask about bike setup stuff, so we'll wait till listener questions.
For
we can get back
Iceman
into
or
it.
just in general.
Iceman specifically, yeah.
Okay. Well, we can
I
wait
like
till
put a feeler out there for people on Instagram to ask questions about Iceman. So I got a bunch of stuff.
Cool.
Okay, so back to Iceman. So you were fourth, so obviously you made the front group. So I screwed up pretty badly in the beginning. Well, I got there late.
Oh, that'll do it.
I like got there early, like I was ready, and then like no one was lining up. So I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna go pee, and then like, you know, come out and just stand around and wait for people to start filtering in. And like literally while I was in the urinal, which was like right next to the start line, I hear everyone like pedaling over, slamming on their brakes and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, I'm missing it. And I came out and they were already like 5 rows stacked up. So I think I slotted in like 6th or 7th row, which was like not ideal when the race is that fast. I mean, it's like basically a, you know, XCO start.
Oh yeah.
And I had a good start. Like I worked up my way up to like the top 15 maybe on that pavement section, like right after the 180-degree turn.
Yeah.
But then I was like too far outside, like way too far outside, and I got pinched off in the barricades that came up, and then I went back to like 50th again, and then never saw the front after that. So my race was pretty much over after that. It's just like when the speeds are that high, it's like so hard to chase down groups because you're like, I mean, you're just constantly geared out or like stuck behind riders and stuff like that, and every second counts. So I never saw the front group. I think that the highest I got was like I was with a group of 10 guys till the finish, and we must have been like battling for like 16th, I think it was. So that was like the farthest up I got. But
I don't know if you.
Let's hear about yours because like you obviously made the front, the first selection. So
so I kind of knew coming in just from talking to a few people that you really need to start at the front of the pack because it's like you said from the gun, almost an XCO. So I don't know if you saw, I had my trainer set up like right beside the.
Oh, that was you area. Okay, I saw someone over there. I didn't know it was you.
Yeah, because like just experience from XC racing. I mean, in that case, you usually have a call up, but in this race, you don't. So I figured instead of going out and riding on the road and missing everybody running to the line, I would just warm up there, and then when I had to go, I'd be right there. And doing that, it was 25 minutes out, and then all the local kids just went to the start. So I had to like hop off my feedback trainer, screw in my front wheel, and by then like I was already like second or third row.
Okay.
But I kind of like pinched my way up to second row after they did the call ups and everything. So honestly,
this is 25 minutes before the start.
This is 25 minutes before the start. Yeah.
It's like you might as well not even do a warm up, man. That's crazy.
No. And like, I was pretty chill about it. Like I knew if I was second or third row, I could put in like a little bit of a digger in the first minute and like work my way around to the front. But ended up being like in a good spot off the start. I kind of sat like in the top 10, but not really at the front. Just to avoid any big crashes and stuff like that. But
were there crashes?
Yes.
I
believe coming out of that like airfield section, there was like a left-hander, and then we went through those puddles. One of those sandy corners, some guy dumped it into the bushes right beside me. So then kind of after the first 2 minutes, then I like spent a bit more effort riding like kind of top 5 to 7 because like I knew that's like when those sorts of crashes usually occur. Everyone's trying to jostle for position, and I figured the extra effort at the beginning was worth not having my race ended.
For sure.
And then after that, like once the group was kind of dwindled down to about 15, 12 to 15 after about 10 minutes, then I kind of completely stopped working. Cause like I knew the guys I was riding with, like I knew there wasn't going to be any attacks at that point in the race, and there was really no point in me sitting at the front, especially being my first Iceman and not really knowing the course.
Mm-hmm. Did you pre-ride much of it?
Yeah, we actually did. I went up there with my buddy Noah. He's also from Canada. And we did get one full lap in 2 days before the race.
Okay.
And we just rode it one time.
But it was totally different though. So I pre-rode the whole course on Friday, the day before.
Okay.
And it was like slow and super sandy and dry. So
bone
like
dry.
The rain, Dylan, it rained like way more than it rained at Schwalmingen.
Yeah, 2 inches.
But that I mean, I've ridden there in that area for the Lumberjack 100, and then that area is also the same area that BWR Michigan was at, and it's just a sandy.
Sandy.
Yeah, so like the rain made it faster.
The rain helped. Yeah.
The rain made it like less sketchy, honestly. I think it slowed some of that single track down. Did you find it was like a little bit like kind of sucked your energy out a bit?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but like I was expecting, like after I rode it on, so I rode it on Friday and I rode it on my hardtail. I brought both bikes with me
Yeah.
and I rode on the hardtail and I was like, man, it's just so bumpy. Like I kept hitting bumps and I was like, you know, I don't know, I wasn't sure. And then like I got to the end, I was like, I'm just going to ride the full suspension. It's going to be faster. It's so bumpy. And then like when it started raining a bunch, I was like, oh, the full suspension is definitely going to be better because like all the roots and stuff like that, you know, like think like it'd suck up some of the, you know, potential for like slipping out. But I don't know if it was just because the sand is like so gritty that like I never felt like I never like didn't have traction. Like I had traction the whole day.
Yeah.
No, maybe that was partly the bike choice, but I didn't feel like the rain like made it slippery or sloppy.
No.
But it did make it like Velcro-y in certain spots though.
Yeah. Yeah. I think overall it made it a better race course. At least a bit
And it
safer.
helps that there's like 5,000 amateurs racing it in the morning to pack it in.
Yeah, because remember in pre-ride it was all leaves, right? In those single track, and there was no leaves when we were racing.
Leaves. None.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, I was a bit scared going in of those like big long. They were like cyclocross style sand pits in the like, ATV trails.
Yeah.
And I figured those would kind of be like separators because you get offline one time and you're going to lose the lead group.
Yep.
All of this is making Carrie's bike choice sound even worse.
Yeah, I actually I was in the pen right beside him and I chatted a little bit. I'm like, Carrie, you're the only guy within sight of this pack here that has a gravel bike. And he's like, yeah, I'm kind of starting to question it a bit.
Well, I don't necessarily think the drop bars were a bad call, but the narrow tires, if it's sandy, the wider the tires you have, the better.
Yeah, I think, I mean, from what I could tell, that was the biggest tire he could run with that bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a mountain bike. Like yours is a mountain bike. His is a cross bike or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Now, he didn't get dropped in any of the single track sections.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good bike handler, so yeah. What bike setup did you have for the race?
I had the Canyon Lux. So that's the full suspension, 100 mil front and rear. I was the only guy in probably the top 12, 14 on a full suspension bike. I think the next guy was actually another Canadian junior kid, Zorak, who chased back onto the...
Dude, I feel like hardtails are making a comeback with all these easy, like technically easy mountain bike races in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like Leadville, Schwamigan, Iceman.
Yeah, but like... And I was going to talk about this when we
saying
talked
that,
about
that they're the right call, but like you are seeing so many more mountain bikers on hardtails. There was a time probably like 5 years ago where I was like, oh yeah, dude, hardtails are done. Like no one's going to be riding a hardtail anymore. And like, I mean, the Lifetime Grand Prix, you could have easily done every race on a hardtail or every mountain bike race in that series on a hardtail. And it may have even been the faster call, debatably.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people just have a misconception about what suspension is actually useful for. Like people think of it as like, if it's technical, you need full suspension. If it's not technical, you want the hardtail, but that's not the case. Like you can have a very bumpy, non-technical course. You can also have like a very technical but smooth course. Like there are courses where like technically it's like really tricky because it's like lots of twisties and turns and up and down and things like that. But if it's not bumpy, like I'll run the hardtail for something like that. But like if it's super bumpy, like that's what you want suspension for.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the only time my bike was in an advantage in the entire race was that final single track. Like right before we came out into the finish, like maybe 800 feet to go. That final single track was kind of greasy. I was coming into that before the single track. I was racing Riley and Kyan Olshov into that single track, and I ended up being the first wheel. But since it was like a little bit bumpy and had some like changing elevation, I was able to gap like both of them. And it gave me like a really good launch pad for the finish. But other than that, it was pretty much a disadvantage all race, like locking and unlocking my bike.
Yeah.
So you would have run a hardtail had you had a hardtail.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and same here. Like I that's what I was gonna say. Like during pre-ride, I thought it was bumpy, but
Yeah.
on race day, it was like smooth as butter, pretty much the whole course.
Yeah.
So like I actually felt like the full suspension was the wrong choice.
For sure.
It's my first Iceman, and I don't know. I mean, didn't really know, so I mean, I just went with what I thought was right. But looking back, for sure, I would have preferred the hardtail with like a lockout fork and stuff on it.
Yeah. One thing I did do was I added about 20 psi to my rear shock. So instead of being like a full squish, it was more of just like a little bit of squish.
Sure. Yeah, I've got the Epic, so it's got the brain, so it's kind of
that's not too bad.
Yeah. So anything else? I mean, so you made the front split, and you said it was like 10 minutes in, there was like a group of 12. Did anything like really shake up between then and when I know Alexi attacked with like 8 miles to go or something like that? 12K, whatever that converts to.
Yeah, so it was definitely like a little bit surgy for the first 20 minutes, but then once everyone kind of realized that the front group had been kind of made, it kind of settled into more of like a tempo threshold effort for until about the 1 hour mark. Riley and Braden Johnson went to the front during some of those like longer single track sections, and it kind of seemed like they were trying to punch some holes in the group because both of them are like XC racers, like pretty technically sound. And they definitely were opening some gaps like in the group for sure, but it never really did any separation. And then kind of between 1 hour and 1 hour 15, the group kind of slowed down quite a bit, and everyone kind of realized like that group was going to go pretty much till the end. And then, about 12K to go is when Alexi launched his attack. And I was actually like 10th wheel, like back of the lead group. So I had zero chance of making the move, unfortunately, because after listening and hearing about how it played out last year, Alexi went with, was it 5K to go or 7K to go?
I think so,
like
the actual icebreaker climb or whatever, I think, right?
Yeah, and I actually thought that he wasn't going to launch at all based on what happened last year, because he launched with 5K to go and then got caught basically on the last climb.
Mm-hmm.
When he was on the front, I was like, okay, like this is going to roll for a while and I'll move up in a little bit, but it went earlier than I thought, and the group didn't respond.
That's crazy. How are they not responding to Alexi?
I don't know. I was 10th wheel and we were in like a double track shoot through the woods. We were moving pretty quick, so I could like barely see what was in front of me. You almost have to like look around the rider in front of you to actually see what's happening. But I watched Carrie's video today. He posted like a bit of a recap, and I guess he was third wheel when Braden Johnson and Alexi launched, but he had just bridged back after his Shimano Di2 went into crash mode.
I saw that.
Shelled.
Yeah.
So I think what happened was Carrie wasn't able to respond. Like, I guess the attack was pretty significant. And then when Carrie couldn't bridge, I guess nobody really came around and did any work.
Yeah. And it sounded like Braden and Riley kind of had some team tactics going in.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like, they were willing to like, whoever was in the move, like the other person was willing to like work to help make it stick. So I think Braden was maybe just in better position. So like he went with Alexi, and then as soon as Carrie wasn't able to like bridge up, Riley like shut it down basically, and was like not willing to bridge either, because he was like, I think, fourth wheel. So just like put a pretty big gap pretty quickly. And I think it sounded like they had like 10 seconds by the top of that climb, and then were able to just expand it from there.
Yeah. It kind of sat at like 10 to 12 seconds for a good couple minutes. And I kind of worked my way back to the front when that happened. And there was like a bit of chatter. Like I know Cole was really trying to get the group to rally together, but that was when Riley was like, yeah, like, sorry guys, this was our plan. Like I'm not working. And I know like Cole and Braden Lang weren't stoked to hear that, but like, I mean, Riley didn't actively slow the group down. Like he still rode at like a good pace. And like, I mean, that's part of racing, right?
Yeah. Well, and Cole and Braden probably had the same tactic coming in. They just like weren't the ones to initiate it.
They
like,
might
those two
have,
guys
yeah.
are like good friends, and like they probably would have been content with either of them winning either. Also, so it easily could have been flipped on those guys too.
For sure, yeah. And then like as the group got dwindled down a bit, like they started looking at me, and I was like, well, like I'm riding with Cole and Braden, like. These guys are like pretty big names in US racing. Like Cole's the defending champion. Like I don't really think I need to pull here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Braden won Schwamigan, so
Yeah.
similar style race. So like he's obviously suited pretty well for that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it just sounded like a savvy move by Alexi. Like he played his cards right. I think it sounded like it helped that Braden went with him because they were able to increase the gap a little more than maybe Alexi could have if it was just him. And obviously Braden was super motivated. And then I don't know exactly like how it shook out between those two, but I know Alexi had a pretty decent gap going up that last climb, like from the videos that I saw.
Yeah.
So he must have found a way to gap off Braden at some point. Which is surprising because like the last 5K are like pretty technical. Like they're probably the most technical parts of the whole course. And I would have expected like Braden to have a one up on Alexi for sure, coming from XC background. And Alexi's, I mean, he's come around a lot with his skills, but still, not quite on the same level. So I don't know if it was just like, punching it up certain climbs or whatever, but somehow he was able to gap Braden.
Yeah, as far as I remember, after their kind of initial attack on that climb, there was another like 3 pretty substantial climbs before we came into those final single tracks. And from what I heard, Alexi kind of just hit it on every single one.
Okay.
And I guess Braden cracked on one of them.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
My guess is that Alexi didn't want to be with anyone in the final single track.
For sure.
Like he wanted to be solo.
Yeah, and that's probably why he went so early. One, maybe to catch people off guard, but 2, to like ensure that he could create enough of a gap. Because it was like, it was, again, it wasn't bumpy or anything, but it was a little bit bumpy. Like there were some roots and stuff, but it wasn't crazy. But it was like really tight and twisty. So
Super
like,
tight.
it was kind of slow in certain spots and there was still like plenty of time once you got out of the single track.
Yeah.
You're like coming through like where the barricades are on both sides. And it's like wide. It's like, 2 bike widths wide. So like if you're not gapped, like there's a chance that like a gap could still close in the final, whatever it is, K and a half or whatever, coming through like the actual finish corral.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I got past in the final 200 meters by Riley.
Okay. Dude, that's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So was that after the flyover?
No, right before the flyover.
Okay. Yeah. Man, the flyover was slick too.
Super slick. I actually considered a move around Riley on it, and I was like, okay, maybe not.
Yeah. But yeah, and then like it's just an epic finish. I mean, I'd heard about it, but until you're there and experience it, like it's so cool. Especially for like domestic racing and it's just awesome.
Yeah, no, the only other place I've ever had a finish vibe or like any vibe like that on the course would be like a mountain bike world championships or a World Cup in Europe.
Yeah.
And even those, like, I think these fans might have topped those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sick.
Dylan, is there any other racing you want to talk about that happened this weekend?
I didn't follow really any other racing.
Okay.
I mean, Alexis Scarda won the women's race.
Alexis,
man.
She's
pretty dope. Dude, she's a badass, man. she did Big Sugar on Saturday, and then she flew to Maryland to do Marathon Mountain Bike Nationals the next day.
Dude, I told you that someone was going to do that. I didn't think it was going to be her, but
well, she was the defending Marathon Mountain Bike National champion, so it probably made sense for her to do that. But yeah.
And I bet like her and Steve Davist petitioned to like USAC to switch it to Sunday because it was originally slated for Saturday, the same day as Big Sugar. But both of those cats were in the Lifetime Grand Prix.
USAC to do it the next weekend, like that is right? So. What is USAC thinking? They know that all of these big names are going to be at. They announced Marathon Nationals so late always too. It's like they didn't announce it till like probably June. So it's like, dude, you could you knew the whole schedule. Like, yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. But yeah, that is pretty badass that she did that. Unfortunately, she didn't defend her title, but I don't blame her. Like considering that she raced 100 miles of gravel and then had to catch a flight. But yeah.
Yeah. And Big Sugar was no joke either.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, she won. Sevilla was second, and then Rose was third in her final race as a pro. She's retired now.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty epic too. She was defending champ and, goes out swinging. Didn't win, but still third. Your last race. It's like better than like the people who wait till they're like 45 to retire and like are mid pack,
Yeah. We were actually just talking about that today. Like dudes who are like holding on for dear life to some sort of contract, and they used to be winning stuff and now they're barely holding on to the pack.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like, guys that are like, they'll look at someone like Brian Motter or Jeff Kabush who are like still crushing it in their like 40s. Like, dude, Brian Motter is so savvy. Like, he's so good at bike racing. Like, he made that front group. It's like, how is a dude like that still pushing that kind of power? It doesn't make any sense to me. He's like 44.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's up there, man. He's like, yeah.
Brian won a UCI mountain bike race this year.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, he won the
short track.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, in Wisconsin.
Dude, how is a 44-year-old winning short track? It was a C1 too. It was like a big race.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Why was
I'm sure guys in their 40s like look up to someone like Brian and they're like, oh, I can still do it, but not everyone's Brian Motter.
Yeah. Yeah. Why wasn't he at Schwamigan? I thought he was like the king of Schwamigan.
I'm not sure. He went to race cyclocross that weekend, I saw, and I'm not really sure why.
Oh.
Well,
I didn't really follow any other racing. I know there was cross racing going on, but I'll be honest, I don't follow cross all that closely to really comment on it.
Yeah, Eric Bruner won Pan Am's for the dudes. Raylan Nuss won for the women. That's it. Dude, your boy, fellow Canadian Tyler Clark, you know him?
Yeah, he's a good one.
That guy slayed on Sunday.
Yeah, what did he finish up on Sunday?
I don't know what he ended up finishing, but he was like, dude, he was matching moves all day with Bruner and Curtis.
Oh, wow.
And he was the only dude hopping the barriers all weekend. They were like super high, I guess. And he was just sending the barriers every lap.
Yeah, Clark's pretty good at barriers. He's a pretty savvy enduro, like downhill racer too.
Really?
Yeah, he won collegiate downhill nationals last fall, actually.
What? Dude, and he's killing it in like one of the biggest weekends of the season in cyclocross. That's savage.
So all three of us went to Brevard College together. I will say that these Canadian boys know how to ride downhill. They're fast.
Got that Rocky Mountain chunk, I guess.
Might have lost. Adam, you there?
Yeah, can you see me?
We lost you for a minute.
Oh, I'm back.
Yeah. But yeah, man. Yeah, Tyler's quick and he knows how to handle a bike.
Yeah, it was sick. Otherwise there wasn't, nothing else exciting to talk about with cyclocross. There's other cyclocross podcasts. So if you really want to listen to cyclocross in depth, like follow
There's a
CX
bunch,
Harris.
yeah.
They do a pretty good job. Okay, so I put out a post on Instagram fielding some questions, and I got a lot of responses. Dylan, do you have any questions that you want to go into before I do mine, just in case we don't get through all of mine?
I didn't get a lot of questions, but
Okay.
Here, hold on real quick. I think I got like one or two, maybe. I already screenshot them. I got one about ORAM, which is a very specific race that most of our listeners probably don't know about or don't do unless they live.
Hold on, I got one about ORAM.
I've done it.
It's the same one. He said he sent it to both of us.
Oh, okay. So read that one.
All right. So, any tips for ORAM for people who don't know? ORAM is off-road assault on Mount Mitchell, which is I think it's either 50-mile or 100K mountain bike race in Western North Carolina. So he says, I've gotten up the Kitsuma switchback climb running 28 by 42 in 10 minutes. How much stronger would I need to be to change from a 30-tooth or 32-tooth chainring? So Kitsuma is just a really super steep switchback climb that's at the beginning of the race and at the end of the race.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a quick answer for that.
All right, let's hear it.
He would have to be no stronger if he ran a 32.50.
That's true. Why is he running a 42?
Yeah.
Mono.
Yeah.
Come on, Zach. Get with the times.
Doesn't Shimano make bigger than 42?
Well, it'll be 11 speed at 42. Be on Shimano.
So you probably got like that Di2 Shimano. Zach, you got upgrade, man.
I think that the right move here is to get a bigger cassette, and then you can run a bigger chainring and not lose on the road sections.
It's more efficient. Anyway.
That's probably what I would say. I mean, how much stronger would you need to be to run a 30 or a 32 tooth chainring? I don't know. I'd have to go to Bike Calculator right now and do some calculating.
I mean, in theory, you don't have to be any stronger. You just have to be able to do a lower cadence. But I would guess, like, if he's running 28.42, like, that's a really small gear.
Yeah.
Bump up to a 32 would be a pretty significant bump. So, like, even if he could climb Kitsuma, everywhere else he'd probably be slower.
Yeah, there's a lot of steep climbing in that race, and I could see how if you need a 28 to climb up Kitsuma, how a 28 would be okay for the rest of the race. There's some road sections, but like it's a lot of climbing. So, my advice is to go with a bigger cassette. Any tips on tires? And I'm assuming he means tires for that race. I would probably, if I was doing that race, I would probably run really wide tires, like 2.4s.
For sure.
I don't know. Maybe the Max is Aspen 2.4. Have you ridden there?
I've raced ORAM.
You've raced ORAM?
Yeah, once.
Okay, so you know the course.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I did it in 2020. And I did go out there and pre-ride a bunch just because I hadn't ridden the trails. I ran 2.4 Aspens for the
best
race.
XC tire of all time.
Yeah, 2.4 Aspens is what I think I would run.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go with something a little burlier if you were maybe trying to be a little more confident on the descent, because there is a very long technical descent in the race. Like one of these descents where your arms are just going to be screaming at you.
That 2.4 Recon is a pretty solid front tire too.
Yeah. If it's wet, I might run a Recon race up front. Because coming down, what's the name of the descent? From the Parkway. Heartbreak, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah, that's the one. It's like 15 minutes of descending and it's pretty rooty. So if it's wet, which it usually is midsummer, you might want more traction than an Aspen.
Yeah. He also asks, would those inner bar ends be beneficial for short stints on the road? So by inner bar ends, maybe he's talking about something like what Keegan used for Leadville, or maybe like something like what I used for Leadville and what Adam used for Leadville. There's not a lot. There's there's a section on the Parkway Road, but it's a gradual climb.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is a section at the road at the beginning, and there's a section of road at the end. Whenever I've done it, I haven't used aero bars or any sort of bar ends, and I'm an aero bar guy. Like, if it's an advantage, I'll use them. And there's so much climbing, so like having a light bike is an advantage.
What do they weigh? Like 200 grams?
Yeah, but like
That's almost
if you can only use them for, I don't know, 10 minutes out of a 4.5 hour race, like, is it really worth it?
I didn't realize
maybe
it was
more
that
than
short.
10 minutes,
Maybe
maybe
15.
15 at the most.
Yeah.
Then probably not actually. Yeah, because I mean, you're going to gain what, 30 seconds on that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if we're talking about bar ends, those are really light, and they don't add much to your bike. If we're talking about a full aero bar setup, probably. What's funny though? Actually, the course record is set by Jeremiah Bishop, and he was using aero bars.
Yeah, but JB probably found other ways to utilize the aero bars that like everyday person couldn't.
Yeah. Also, I don't think he was running that setup specifically for ORAM. He was more so testing it out to see if it would be a good setup for Leadville, which was like the next weekend or something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah, that's my answer there. All right. How much effort should I put into getting to the base of Kitsuma in the beginning? I would just pace yourself properly. Forget about trying to stay with any sort of front group to get to Kitsuma. No. It's not worth it. Like, you're not even like drafting off of people after that. It's like, just conserve your energy, ride at a sustainable pace going into Kitsuma, get up Kitsuma, and ride at your own pace. There's like no need to sort of make some sort of front group selection at that race. Because there's like minimal drafting at that race.
And it's long.
Yeah. Cool. That's all the questions he had about ORAM. We can get to Iceman questions.
Okay, so I've got one non-Iceman question first.
Okay.
And this is from Timmy D. He sent me his last name, but I don't remember what it is. Timmy D. He says, a couple questions for the podcast, and it's just really one because the other ones were for Scott, but Scott's not here. So he asked why cross riders don't run inserts with tubeless. He says you can drop pressure and essentially run flat if you had to. WTF is with gluing tubs, whatever you want to say. I'm newer to cross, but my setup is Cushcore gravel /CX liners with orange seal and no issues, no burping, and you can corner better. He just doesn't get why people are still running tubulars.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like a cross racer, but I would have to say that it's probably just down to tradition.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've done a decent amount of cross. Not like, I've never really done a full schedule. But I've raced cross worlds in Europe 2 or 3 times. I've done Christmas cross in Europe. And when it comes down to like the traditional muddy races, tubulars I've always found just get more purchase in the mud than a tubeless. I think part of it's maybe just this, like how soft the tubular tire compounds are. They kind of just like form to the bumps under the mud. But yeah, I've tried both, and the tubulars have always just been like a little bit more comfortable.
Have you tried tubeless with Cushcore though? Because that's what he's specifically asking about.
Yes, I have actually. I borrowed a wheel for a race. It was like an NCCX, and it was set up as tubeless with Cushcore. I can't remember how much I liked it. I felt like I had good grip. It was a fairly muddy race, actually. But like the only thing I can think of as a disadvantage is like there's less volume for like cushioning.
Sure.
That's the only disadvantage I could think of.
Adam, what do you think?
So I mean, I raced a lot of cross. and I've run exclusively tubeless since 2019. So I've done a lot of cross racing on tubeless. And I mean, for me, it was just like logistical reasons. Like I didn't want to have to travel with 4 or 5 wheel sets. Like already traveling with 2 bikes is enough. Like you don't need to have 2 or 3 more wheel sets on top of that.
Yeah.
So I would just run tubeless, and then if I needed to switch tires, I could. But I even just started just running the same tire, like in all conditions, and like I didn't really give a shit what happened. But I also like,
dude, cross seems so equipment intensive for such short races, man.
It is.
yeah,
You know
that's
what I
why
mean?
that's why I stopped racing cross this year. I was like,
you
I'm
need
just over it.
within 2 bikes and like a million wheel sets. It's just like,
Yeah,
and you're racing for an hour, and then after the race, your bike is trashed.
yeah,
It's the most unappealing
yeah,
aspect of cross to me.
Yeah,
for sure. If cross was in the summertime, it would be awesome. I don't
every
know why
cross
cross has to
racer-
only be in the fall. It's so stupid.
Every cross racer I talk to says the same thing. Drew says the same thing. Scott says the same thing. They're like, yeah, like racing is fun, but the equipment, both getting it ready before and then cleaning it after, is such a pain.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm game with the tubeless setup. I think it's easier and cheaper, and I don't know. I found it to be pretty reliable, but I like never flat tires. Like I've flatted like 3 tires ever in a race. So like, I don't know. It's just not something I'm worried about.
No, not in cross.
Yeah. And I actually prefer running a little bit more pressure with a little bit more tread, because I tend to corner a little bit more like a mountain bike. So I like the stability of the tubeless tires a little more so than like the folding nature you get. Like with tubulars, like it's all about like you have to have the exact pressure. Like you want it to fold a little bit, but you can't let it fold too much. And I've never really been comfortable with like finding that edge and pushing over it. It's just like not, I don't know. I just feel like I just don't like it. So I kind of like tubeless for that, the little stiffer sidewalls.
Yeah, no, it is a lot simpler, and it gives you that ability to literally switch tires 30 minutes before going to the start line if you want to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so first Iceman question. So Ian Anderson says, I've seen a variety of bike setups for this race, from gravel bikes to full sus. What is the fastest? And we kind of touched on this a little bit. There was another question here from Brazieri. I don't want to like go to their Instagram page and find their name, but that's their handle. He says, how come you chose the full sus instead of the hardtail? So we'll kind of loop these into the same question. We talked about it a little bit. I personally think the drop bar mountain bike would be so sick for this race. I got done, wished sort of that I'd raced the hardtail. I mean, like you can only wish so much because like it's not worth it. But like looking back, like I wrote in my notes, like next year, like lean towards the hardtail. I don't have a drop bar mountain bike though, so like that wasn't an option for me. But if I could put in my notes like the bike that like I would ideally ride, it would be the drop bar mountain bike. I think handling wise, like all you need to do is be fast enough to stay with the front group. Like no one's breaking away on any of the technical sections. So like all you need to do is be able to handle good enough to like stay with the front group. And then on all the other sections, like it's going to be faster because like you're a little bit more aero and there's like plenty of drafting and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the drop bar mountain bike would be sick.
Yeah, I would agree.
As far as tires go, having not done the race but having ridden in that area, I would say the wider the better.
To an extent, like you do have to factor in that like there is some grass that you're riding through, so like you don't want to be too wide to where like you're losing a ton of.
So have we confirmed that wider tires are slower in the grass?
Dude, I feel like anecdotally I confirmed that.
Okay. All right.
I didn't used to think so, but now I'm convinced. Like 2.4s are definitely slower than 2.2s in the grass.
All right, man.
Next year I'll go out and do a legit test with it.
It's not something that I've ever tested, so I can't speak to it. But I
Are we talking like smooth grass?
I'm a little bit, I don't know, whatever grass is at Iceman.
Any grass.
Yeah. I think a 225 tire is probably still safe for Iceman.
Yeah.
Well, we're not talking about safe. We're talking about the fastest.
No, but I mean like safe as
Yeah.
in fastest.
Yeah, I think a 2.1 or a 2.25 is the right tire choice. I think narrower than 2.1, maybe getting a little too squirrely and probably losing some time in the sand. Bigger than 2.25 is just not necessary.
My mountain bike tire of choice is the Continental Race King, and then it has nothing to do with how well it handles because it's not a super well handling tire, but it's just really fast. It tests really fast. It's got really low rolling resistance. And unfortunately, it only comes in a 2.2, but I will say that if that tire came in a 2.4, I think I would run that exclusively. I don't think there's any mountain bike race that I wouldn't run that tire for if it came in a 2.4.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. And
Iceman included.
I mean, Pidcock won the Olympics on Race Kings. They could have been some prototype like 2.35, 2.4, but they were Race Kings.
Yeah, and it looks like Ineos had him do a lot of testing with different equipment and stuff too. So
yeah,
you know, did they have a Continental sponsorship, or could he just run whatever he wanted?
He could run whatever he wanted. Because
There
on their road bikes.
See, that is way more powerful than like having a tire sponsor, and you know, it's like, oh, you know, Nino won on Maxxis and he's sponsored by Maxxis. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But like, if you can run whatever tire you want to run, and then you pick a certain tire, and then you win the Olympics on that tire, that to me is way more powerful than having a tire sponsor.
Yeah, I would agree. If Pidcock is like the benchmark of like choosing equipment.
Are you saying that he's not?
I don't know. I mean, he's hardly raced mountain bikes. Like,
true.
Yeah, he won the Olympics, but that's just because he's like the fittest. Like,
okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
I don't know, Tyler. What do you think? I mean, do you have a hardtail? Like, could you have raced a hardtail if you wanted to?
I didn't have a hardtail this year. No.
Okay, so you didn't really have a choice.
I didn't have a choice. Don't have a gravel bike either. But I wouldn't have raced that.
I don't think a gravel bike is the right move.
No.
So from my, like I said, I haven't done the race, but what I'm thinking right now is hardtail mountain bike with drop bars and 2.4s.
I think you want a fork though. Something.
No, definitely a fork.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have done it rigid.
No.
Yeah,
there's your answer.
Especially because like there's two significantly bumpy technical-ish single tracks in the last 2 kilometers.
So from what I heard, that the single track was new in the end.
Yeah.
And I think this is my speculation, but I think they're trying to like keep it a mountain bike race.
Yeah.
So they want like where it's decisive to like still be favorable for a mountain bike. So, because there were a couple other single track sections too that I guess were new. So, I would expect that those single track sections will stay in the race for future.
I think so too.
And Kerry said the same thing. He said he would have preferred the suspension fork this year.
Yeah, Kerry's in a weird spot because his two options are either like his gravel bike, or his mountain bike is like almost a trail bike. Like what Kona's XC race bike is like it might as well be a trail bike, right? So it's like, what do you go with? Like, do you go with way over biking or way under biking? You know,
right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. This guy asked if we ran tire inserts.
No, I had one in the rear like all season, and I pulled it for Iceman. Just no need.
Yeah.
Like, nowhere to flat.
Yeah.
Or really roll a tire either.
No. I've never run tire inserts in anything. And I ran 2.25s at 17, 18 PSI. It's like pretty low.
Yeah, that's almost what I ran. I ran 2.25s at 19 and 18.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's like low enough. Like I don't see why you need to go lower than 17 PSI.
No, I mean depending on your body weight, right?
At Leadville, I ran 16, 17.
Damn.
But you were in the the 2.2s. That's right. Yeah.
I was 2.2s with, yeah.
It's because really
I don't
bumpy.
know.
I mean, I guess it's just the fastest pressure for that tire in my weight.
Mm.
Okay, so this guy says, what do you guys run for chain loop? Do you go Super Dylan style with wax, or does it depend on conditions?
So this guy already knows what I run.
Yeah, this is from JPS Gravel Adventures. I've never waxed my chain before. I've had 2 opportunities. At Schwamigan, you offered to wax my chain, and then at Big Sugar, you also offered to wax my chain.
Dude, Adam has had front row seats to a chain waxing party twice, and he declined both times.
It just seems like so much work, and I wasn't even the one who was going to have to do the work. I just felt bad for whoever was.
Yeah, well, dude, the second time it was Travis from Silka just waxing everyone's chains.
I know. I don't know. That was the first time I met the guy. I'm not going to be like, nice to meet you. Wax my chain, please.
Yeah, you're not even sponsored by Silka. All the rest of us were.
And that probably didn't help my cause either.
Yeah.
No, I just use, I think it's called Muck Off Dry, and I use that in all conditions. It doesn't matter. I just whack or lube the shit out of my chain if it's going to be wet. Like I lubed it like 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah, I use a wax, but not like a wax you have to dip your chain in.
Just like drip wax.
Yeah, it's called Momum. It's a Spanish company. They sponsor a couple of World Cup teams. But mine, I just put it on the night before and then do another layer in the morning. And
now, don't you put oil, like a thin oil in your bottom bracket instead of grease if you're racing?
Yeah.
All season. Dude, that's some nerdy efficiency.
Yeah, where is that at? Like
in the mountain bike SRAM dub bottom bracket. It was actually Brad. Where?
Yeah.
So you pull the black kind of seal cover off.
You pull the covers off and you put oil in there?
Oh yeah, it's easy. I saw Brad Copeland do it. And then I just messaged him like, hey, how do I get these seals apart? And then he just wrote me a little description. I did it. And you basically make a $45 SRAM dub bottom bracket, spin like a $500 ceramic speed bottom bracket if you use the right oil and do it right. Mm-hmm. Now, I had actually tested the lifespan of this versus a stock SRAM dub, and it was almost identical. I got about 6 months of use out of that.
Wow, that's good.
Now, you can re-oil it. So when the oil dries up, you can just add more oil in, and as long as the bearings aren't rusty, then it'll start spinning better again.
So I'm guessing you said it depends on, or you have to use the right oil. So are you talking about the weight of the oil? Because usually oil is going to be quite a bit less viscous than grease. So
yeah.
Is it easier for grit and stuff to permeate into the bottom bracket then?
I haven't found that, no. Like I said, when I did the testing, I was actually living down here, and it's super rainy and mucky in the summertime. So it was a good time to test the durability of it. And I didn't notice any more dirt and grime got in when I was running the oil compared to the grease.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's a good tip.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of work. It's an hour of work to do.
Yeah. Ceramic Speed, I don't all their stuff is, I'm hesitant to say exactly what it is because I don't know, but I mean, it seems like oil. It doesn't seem like grease in all their stuff. The oversized pulley wheels, the bottom bracket.
I think it's a bit of a hybrid.
The
Ceramic Speed stuff spins just as good as what I do, but lasts longer for sure. No question there. But it seems to me it's so slippery when you touch it that it's not really a grease. It's more of I don't know, what would you call it?
Yeah. Dude, I had a guy message me about he messaged me and he said, how much watt savings do you think those oversized pulley wheels are? And I was like, I don't know. I haven't tested it. I would have to guess maybe one or 2 watts. And then he messaged me 2 weeks later and he said, I bought the pulley wheels and I tested them on my trainer versus my old pulley wheels, and it was a 4 watt savings. I was like, all right, well, that's pretty significant.
I mean, part of that depends.
How is this guy testing that?
I think what he did is he
if you forgot to lube your chain that day, it's like more than 4 watts.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think what he did is he rode on his rollers probably at a fixed speed and tried to see what the power output was, or vice versa. And then he installed the new pulley wheels and then did it again.
Mm. I mean, does
that translate to the real world? I don't know, but that's what he told me.
As far as I know, the biggest advantage of the oversized systems is the chain line advantage. Like you decrease the tight angle through the derailleur. And I don't think people realize how much of a difference that makes. Like so these crazy small cassettes like that have like a 9 tooth, or even the SRAM ones that have a 10 tooth. Yeah.
Going from an 11 to a 10 tooth I'm going to misspeak here, but like if I had Josh from Silicon, he knows like these exact numbers, but it's like something crazy. It's like 4 watts that you're losing or something. And then if you go to a 9 tooth, it's like another 4 or 5 watts. Like it's a lot of lost power when your chain has to bend that much around the cog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So
I hear he would love this conversation.
Yeah. We love you, Scott. We miss you. Okay, so Chase the biker, which is Chase Wark, he says, was y'all's off-season plans, and how wild are the crowds at Iceman? So we can talk about that first. I mean, they're freaking wild. You just got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
that's it.
Is there an after party?
Yeah, that's why like it's like the end of the season shindig is like the whole. I mean, I wouldn't say the whole town, but like, yeah, there's like tons of after parties.
Mm-hmm.
There's like an actual after party at the venue.
Yeah.
And then there's like after parties in town, like at all the bars and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't go downtown just because I had to drive back to Brevard the next day. And I didn't win, so I felt like I didn't deserve it.
Yeah, gotta punish yourself.
Yeah.
So he says, off-season plans. I mean, I don't know. I'm not riding my bike until like December, so I have no idea.
I threw a pretty massive Halloween rager at my house, which was the first. Our house got wrecked.
It was a good night.
There.
Yeah, I had a good time for sure.
What were you guys dressed as?
What were you dressed as? Like an alien?
I was an illegal alien because I'm Canadian, living in the US currently.
Nice.
So it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, Nina and I's costume was pretty stupid. It was like we were Gautier from the song Somebody I Used to Know, where they're like basically naked, but their body is painted. So we had this body paint, and the body paint got everywhere. Like it got all over everyone at the party and all over the walls and all over the house. It just made the mess the next morning even worse. And it was also really hard to wash off. So, and also like we originally invited the Brevard cycling team, and they were like the original ones that showed up to the party. And I guess there were a couple other parties on campus that got shut down. And by the end of the night, it was like no one from the cycling team and a bunch of people from, I don't know. Like by the end of the night, I didn't know there were still 40 people in my house, and I didn't know any of them.
Classic.
So yeah, that's how the off season's going.
There you go. Um,
And we also got camo bush for people.
oh yeah, but you didn't drink any.
No.
Tyler, so are you done with off season then, or was like Iceman just like an off season break from off season?
Technically, I took my off season when I finished the World Cup final in September. So Iceman was technically my first race of next season, I guess.
Oh,
yeah,
that's trippy.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Like I did a couple weeks of training and then whacked a race out.
So now you're like full bore training though.
Yeah, not like
base season.
Yeah, not like trying to get race fit. Even though I'm doing Hendersonville next weekend, and then Canadian Cross Nats the weekend after that.
It's basically race season.
Yeah,
but yeah, seriously.
Fun races that if I do well, that's sick, and if I don't do well, I don't really care.
Sure. Yeah. And are you like next year? Are you primarily focused on the World Cup series?
Yeah, pretty much
for XCO.
Yeah, pretty much exclusively. I do plan to throw a couple of one-off races in there, like definitely Iceman, maybe an Epic Rides, maybe a gravel race. But
Epic Rides, are they coming back?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. At least have a few more.
Cool,
dude. You ought to go to Schwamigan. Probably do well there.
Yeah, Schwamigan and the people I was staying with at Iceman told me to do Orschel.
Yeah, apparently the 3 of those races are like a Triple Crown or something.
Yeah,
Midwest Triple Crown. But Orschel is the same weekend as Leadville.
Oh, that's okay because I won't be doing Leadville, I don't think.
Yeah. But yeah, they're basically all like pretty similar and like kind of old school mountain bikey. Pretty sick races.
Yeah, I kind of like to do that just because like there's a lot of hype up there and old school mountain biking is kind of cool too.
It is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get your sponsor to send you a hardtail for next year then.
Yeah, I think I could work that out.
You're gonna be on Canyon again?
No.
Can we discuss what next year looks like or not? Not yet.
It's unknown, but or it's unofficial.
Sure,
but it'll be a UCI XCO elite team.
Sweet.
Most likely.
It's awesome.
Right. Yep.
You got more questions?
Yeah. Okay. So I think this is the last one. No, there's 2 more. So Isaac Zickness says, of all the races this season, which was the best atmosphere? Which one had the best course? Which one had the best after party? And which one had the best awards?
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, we could probably just end with this one.
Okay, what was the first one?
So which one had the best atmosphere?
Out of the races we did, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, what are you gonna like talk about? Like the races you watched on TV?
Sure. Is he asking about the Lifetime Grand Prix?
No. I mean, I guess
just asking all of us generally.
Race. Yeah. I mean, the atmosphere at Schwamigan is pretty good. I feel like the atmosphere at Unbound is always pretty good. Like I feel like you finish at Unbound and everybody's just, I mean, this is kind of like what it is at Schwamigan too, but everybody's just hanging out at the finish area, just like waiting for people to come in. And it's like, it's downtown there and there's like there's just so many people. It's like a kind of cool vibe. Neither of you guys have done Unbound, so you can't.
No.
I
don't know. What do you guys think?
For me, atmosphere it would have to be Iceman, honestly. Like it's similar to a World Cup, but it's just so much more unique. And I think it's like just like there's just more hype for it because it's only one race. Like
yeah,
8 World Cups, but there's only one Iceman.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have to do that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like it's hard to say. I mean, like I did so many awesome races this year that had like really cool vibes. But I think the thing that really makes Schwamigan and Iceman unique is that the amateurs race in the morning and then we race in the afternoon. And that just like makes such a big difference for like the crowds and like the finish line atmosphere. Cause everyone sticks around and it like actually makes it feel like a legitimate professional sport instead of like finishing another race where like you finish top 10, but like no one's there because everyone else is still racing. It's like, you know, you got like 5 people cheering for you, but like, and that sucks, you know, like,
Yeah.
Like it's so much better when they separate the races and they put us in the afternoon. And I think that's from our perspective, but for sure from the amateur perspective too. Like they love that.
So I've made this suggestion before of like, for example, for Leadville and for Unbound and some of these longer races of having the amateur race on Saturday and the pro race on Sunday. Do you think the amateurs would actually stick around for the pro race on Sunday? I mean, obviously not all of them would, but do you think a lot of them would in order to create that kind of crowd?
It's hard to say, but like maybe a race like Unbound, you'd get people who like want to drive out to like the craziest section because they rode it the day before and they're like, oh man, that like little Egypt section is going to be so crazy because like everyone crashed there in the amateur race. So they like get all their homies to go out there and like ride or like watch everyone ride through those sections. Like maybe they would, and that'd be kind of cool if they did. I know for like the Epic Rides races, whenever we would race the day after, you'd get like quite a few spectators out there. Lining the course and at certain technical sections, and then like for sure at the finish line, like way more than the year that they did the Epic Rides, where like it was like mass start, and like then there was like no one at the finish, and like that's kind of lame. I don't know, just doesn't feel like a legitimate sport anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so what was your favorite course of the races you did this season? This one's probably really applicable to you, Tyler.
Honestly, it was a new course on the circuit this year, the first World Cup in Brazil. It was badass. They actually had a UCI C1 the week before, and that course was supposed to be the World Cup course. And it had some like gnarly drops and gaps and like super steep like features that you have to full commit to on these like little XC bikes we ride now. And they actually ended up like dumbing it down a little bit for the World Cup the week after, but that C1 course was gnarly and like super sick. It was in the jungle. Yeah, they just did a really good job on it and like really hit on like every aspect of modern XC, I think.
Cool. And it was the C1 course that was like a man-made course too?
Yeah, I mean, it was like man-made features, but like very natural feeling. Like you were riding like real dirt through the jungle. It wasn't like
cool
propped up gravel or anything, not like an Olympic course. Yeah,
which is unique. Like a lot of times the man-made features like don't feel natural at all.
No, it was super cool. Yeah, I really wish they didn't dumb it down for the World Cup.
What about you, Dylan? Favorite course? Just say Unbound and let's move on.
Say Unbound? I actually really enjoyed the BWR Michigan course just because it was so, and Alexi would definitely disagree with me. I don't think he liked that course, but I just liked how it was so difficult to pick the right bike. And there was such a wide variety of terrain from like deep sand to single track to road. I'd probably go with that one.
Sweet. I really liked Big Sugar. I really, really enjoy technical gravel riding.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty good at it and it just makes it more fun. And like, it wasn't super technical, but there were definitely like some sections where like I like when you can force a selection in a gravel or in a technical section. And like, that's how Big Sugar was. Like if you had the right riders around you, like you could have forced a selection on some of those descents.
So dude, we were doing that all day until I got dropped from your group.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You had to have the right riders around you. Unfortunately, you were not the right rider.
Dude, if Russell or Keegan or anyone in the top 5 had my bike, I think they would have won by like 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
Possibly. But yeah, I like that course a lot. I thought it was awesome. Okay, which race had the best after party?
It's a good question. I'm not much of an after party kind of guy.
So I think what he's talking about here is like
Or just like the
finish line party.
finish line vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not like literally in the club after the party. I mean, after because I know that happens at some of the races, but usually I'm too freaking tired and I just want to go to bed. Like especially if the race starts so early in the morning, like I find myself falling asleep. Anyway, well, that's kind of similar to the first question, is it not?
Yeah, I think it is pretty similar. Like, I think the way that we kind of interpreted the best atmosphere sort of included that after party vibe. So, I don't know. I feel like the answers are probably pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd say Iceman.
Yeah, I didn't stick around for the after party at Iceman, so I don't really know. But like World Cuppers don't really party until the end of the season.
So the only after party that I like took part in was the one at Big Sugar, which was the official Lifetime Grand Prix after party at whatever like bar that was. And that was cool. So I'd probably say Big Sugar. There was there was a lot of people there, not just Lifetime Grand Prix people, but just a lot of people in general. We met fans of the podcast there. So
yeah,
that was a cool time.
That was pretty sick. Okay, so the last question, then we'll wrap this thing up because Tyler's like training full bore, so we got to get him to sleep.
I got a rest day tomorrow.
Okay.
Also, my laptop is like about to die. So
okay, which race had the best awards? So you can interpret this as either financial awards or like the sickest trophy or something.
It's got to be Iceman.
Yeah,
right?
for me,
the ice trophy.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah,
and it's got good prize money.
Yeah.
Which race has the biggest prize money in the U.S. right now? Do we know? For like it's probably BWR California. I think Alexi won like I don't know, 5 or 10 grand for that race.
Well, it'd have to be 10,000.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and look at what his check said. I know there was a lot of prize money at BWR California. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. I know there were a few that had a $10,000 for first. I want to say Schwamgen was 10 grand for first. Or maybe it was 5.
I think it was only 5.
Was it 5? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to shout out to my homies up in North Dakota at the Nepomuk Gnarly who put up 10 grand prize purse for a race that had like 30 people.
What?
Which is pretty sick. So like prize purse to participant ratio, like hands down biggest in the country.
That's so crazy.
What is the race?
It was just a 100-mile gravel race.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Adam Roberge won it. I was second.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we'll wrap it there. Thanks, man.
Sweet.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Look forward to hearing the team announcement for next year.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe sometime in January.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys.
Yeah.
See ya.
See you later.